Jnanam Satyam Jnanam Jyoti Aravinda Jyoti Aravinda Jyoti Aravinda. So looking at the story of Savitri in short, of course Sri Aurobindo has taken it from Mahabharata, where Yama takes Satyavan, Savitri's husband, and Savitri follows Yama and brings him back. That's the story in Mahabharata, but Sri Aurobindo has made it, as he says, a symbol and a legend, where Satyavan represents the human being fallen into the ignorance of death, and Savitri is the divine mother who's rescuing the Satyavan fallen into ignorance and death and restoring him to his light. So there's a beautiful, beautiful canto in Savitri called The Debate of Love and Death. Now, love here represents an affirmation of the light that each of us is, the light that everything is, the God that everything is. And death is not the end of life, death is a negation, something that negates light, something that denies light. That is death. So this debate between love and death is an ongoing debate within us. The voice of death is that part of our mind which constantly says, I'm not good enough, the world, everything that makes us grumble and criticize is the voice of death, which denies God, which denies light. And everything that reminds us of the beauty and joy in life in some way has its source in the voice of the Divine Mother represented by Savitri, the voice of love. So this is the mother says it, that at every moment you have a choice between the height and the abyss, but you have to choose. Every time I identify with the voice of death, which is negativity, fear, writing people off, calling them wrong, calling myself wrong, that's the voice of death. So somebody's beautifully said that if you can still criticize, you haven't touched the truth. Because when you touch the truth, you can't criticize. You just know this is the Leela of Lord, and nothing in you feels equipped to criticize it, because to be convinced about your criticism, you have to understand it. You know that with your little mind, you can't understand anything. So nothing in you feels justified in criticizing. So that's the choice Mother's saying we have at every moment, between the height and the abyss, to give in to negativity, criticism, calling people bad, calling life bad. That's the voice of death. Or the voice of love, which affirms me, which affirms life. Now, in us, in our consciousness, we can say there is the outer being, which is made up of our thoughts, emotions, body, sensations. And there's the inner being whose essential character is the witness, the light behind. Whenever there's a play of negativity in our outer being, we have a choice of getting identified with it. Then in that moment, we have given in to the voice of death, which is playing in the outer being. or we have a choice of stepping back and witnessing that this is not me, this is just a play of Prakriti, a play of gunas. The real me is actually completely untouched by it. So now coming to our PDF, the fifth page, we are starting with page 49 of Savitri. A burning witness in the sanctuary. Sanctuary is our sanctuary, our inner sanctuary, our psychic being. A burning witness in the sanctuary regards through time and the blind walls of form. A timeless light is in his hidden eyes. So in all of us, there's a burning witness means passionate with love. Burning witness in the sanctuary regards through time and the blind walls of form. Form creates a blindness in our seeing. We can't see the real thing. We just get stuck at the form. So regards through time and the blind walls of form. A timeless light is in his hidden eyes. Whose hidden eyes? The eyes of the witness. There's an eternal, timeless light is in his hidden eyes. He sees the secret things no words can speak. So the witness poise in us is omniscient. It's the all-knowing consciousness. But we are not conscious of it, so we are not omniscient. He sees the secret things no words can speak, and knows the goal of the unconscious world. See, when we don't know the goal of the unconscious world, which our outer being doesn't know, we'll keep criticizing. That's why we say, if I can still criticize, I haven't touched the truth. When I touch the truth that I know in my witness self, I know that everything is work in progress. I know what it's leading to. I see the secret God behind every form I recoil from. Then nothing in me can criticize. So to be of a constantly grumbling and critical temperament, I have to actually be very unconscious. Because if I'm conscious of my light, I can't go on grumbling. Only when I'm unconscious of it, I go on grumbling. A timeless light is in his hidden eyes. He sees the secret things no words can speak, and knows the goal of the unconscious world and the heart of the mystery of the journeying years. So the journeying years to our seeing seem random, but there is a heart, a truth behind this mystery. The evolutionary plan in it all, and the witness knows that. So very beautiful lines, I'm reading them without explanation. A burning witness in the sanctuary regards through time and the blind walls of form. A timeless light is in his hidden eyes. He sees the secret things no words can speak, and knows the goal of the unconscious world and the heart of the mystery of the journeying years. So to understand more about the witness, roots and leaves are there. If you cut anger, 3 leaves will come instead. You will be thrice angry. So here, the metaphor of a tree which has its roots and it has its leaves. Leaves are what is visible. So when you get angry, say 1 leaf is the leaf of anger and you chop it off, 3 more will come. If you cut sex, you will become abnormally obsessed with sex. Cut anything and watch and you will see that thrice is happening. Then the mind will say, cut more, this is not enough. Then you cut more and then more comes out of it. Then you're in a vicious circle. That's why so many leaves are coming. You can cut all the branches, it makes no difference, because the tree exists in the root, not in the leaves. Now, what is the root of our anger, root of our greed, root of all negativity? It is identification. When I get identified with the anger, inadequacy, fear that comes up, that identification with the flow of gunas or prakriti is the root. So identification is the root. Everything else is nothing but leaves. Being identified with greed, being identified with anger is the root. And remember, it's the same whether you're identified with greed or meditation, love, moksha, God, it makes no difference. It's the same identification. Being identified is the root, all else is like leaves. Watch the greed, the negativity, the anger, the possessiveness, the jealousy. One has to be remembered. You don't get identified. You simply watch. You simply look. You become a spectator. By and by, the quality of witnessing grows. You become able to see all nuances of greed. It is very subtle. You become capable of seeing how subtly the ego functions. It's a very subtle and delicate and deep hidden thing. The more you watch, the more your eyes become capable of seeing, become more perceptive. So while I'm identified with the flow of Prakriti, there's no space for real perception or intuition. Intuition comes from the witness. The more I'm able to observe the flow of thoughts and emotions, the more the wisdom arises that sees different perspectives of things, and you see the truth behind. Distance helps, because without distance there can be no perception. How can you see a thing which is too close? If you're standing too close to a mirror, you cannot see your reflection, isn't it? If your nose is stuck to the mirror, you'll see a very distorted reflection of yourself. But if you're a little away, you'll see the whole. You'll see that, oh, this dupatta doesn't match, let me change it. But if you're stuck to the mirror, you can't correct anything that's mismatched. If you're standing too close to a mirror, you cannot see your reflection. If your eyes are touching the mirror, how can you see? The witness is an outsider. By its very nature, the witness can never become an insider. Find out this witness, and then you're standing on top of the hill. And everything goes on in the valley, and you are not concerned. You simply see. What is your concern? It is as if it's happening to somebody else. And it's the same with greed. It is the same with anger. Everything is complex. And you will enjoy it if you can watch negative, positive, all emotions. You simply remember one thing, that you have to be a watcher. Then the identification is broken, then the root is cut. And once the root is cut, once you think you're not the doer, everything changes. And the change is sudden. There is no gradualness to it. Cut the root of the tree and the leaves will wither. Cut the root of your mind and samsara will fall. The moment you cut the root of the mind, the identification with it, the samsara falls. And the whole world falls like a house of cards. Just a small wind of awareness and the whole house falls. So, there's nothing wrong with negative emotions. They are part of being human. But it's unconscious to be controlled by them, isn't it? When anger arises and I let it control me, and I grumble and I speak angrily and I dump on people around, that's also not wrong, but it's just unconscious. I can't be conscious and be angry and grumbly and all that. So when that state of anger arises, or whatever, fear, greed, whatever it is. So beautiful to cut the root. What is the root? To see that I'm not this anger. I'm the screen behind the anger. The movie is the anger, but the colors of the movie actually never paint the screen. The screen remains pristine white. And to reclaim my identity with that witnessing screen rather than the angry movie, that is cutting the root. And that is one step towards choosing the height. When Mother says at every moment you have a choice, but you must choose between the height and the abyss. Abyss is the ignorant play in the mind. When I let it control me, when I get identified with it, I'm choosing the abyss. To choose the height is to choose the light that I am behind this play. Buddhists use mind in two senses, mind with a small m and mind with a capital M. When they use mind with a capital M, they mean the witness consciousness. Capital M is the witness. Small m is the play of Prakriti, the thoughts. When they use mind with small m, they mean the witnessed, and both are mind. That's why they use the same word for both with just a small difference. So the mind is a whole spectrum. It's not that mind with a small m is not part of me and mind with a capital M is part of me. Both are me, but it's a spectrum. So when they use mind with the small m, they mean the witnessed, and both are mind. With a capital M, you are the witness, and with a small m, you are the witnessed. You are the thoughts, emotions, anger, greed, everything. Why use the same word? Why create confusion? There is reason for it. Because when the mind with the capital M arises, that is the witness consciousness arises, the mind with the small m is simply absorbed in it. As rivers fall into the ocean, the millions of minds around the great mind all fall into it. The energy is reabsorbed. That's the whole thing when a movement of anger, inadequacy, greed arises, and you're able to step back from it. You're not fighting it, you're not suppressing it, you're not denying it, nor are you being controlled by it. When we say don't suppress emotion, the trap is, okay, then I get controlled by it. That's also creating fresh samskaras. We don't want that. We want to step back. We want to recognize that, yeah, there's this space in me which is never touched by this, which is outside this. And that is the real me. Not this apparent me, not this angry me, not this fearful me, but the space behind which is watching. I'm not the I in the movement of anger. I'm not the I in the movement of fear. I'm the big I, the big M behind the small m which is arising. And the moment that big M arises, it's like the small m dissolves. It's like when the screen behind the movie becomes visible, the movie dissolves. It can't exist when the screen shines. So, as rivers fall into the oceans, the millions of minds around the great mind all fall into it. The energy is reabsorbed. Anger, greed, jealousy, they were energies moving outwards centrifugally. Centrifugally is from the center of the circle outward. Suddenly, when the mind with the capital M arises, the witness sits there silently watching, and all the rivers change their course. Suppose the rivers of my consciousness are flowing outwards. You did this, I must put you in your place, whatever. When the witness arises, all that falls back in. It becomes centripetal. It's no longer centrifugal. They were going centrifugally towards the periphery. Suddenly they turn back. They become centripetal. They start falling into the great mind with a capital M. Everything is absorbed. That's why the same word is used. So now we come to passages from Savitri, page 323, Savitri. Worlds where the being is unbound and wide, embodied unthinkably the egoless self. So the egoless self is this vastness of the witness field. So this passage is talking about a world, a universe, where the being is unbound and wide. It's not bound into the smallness of the ego. It's unbound and wide. Bodied unthinkably, without thoughts. You can't think it. You can't think the witness, because the witness is beyond thought. Bodied unthinkably the egoless self. Rapture of beatific energies join time to the timeless. Poles of a single joy. White vases were seen where all is wrapped in all. There were no contraries, no sundered paths. So in that realm of oneness, there was no contradiction, there was no separate paths. All by spiritual links were joined to all and bound indissolubly to the one. So in that realm of oneness, spiritual links joined each one to the other. Each was unique. That doesn't mean we lose our uniqueness, but took all lives as his own. Each was unique, but took all lives as his own. And following out these stones of the infinite, recognized in himself the universe. So I know a person who just has a consciousness where she feels everything inside her. So we've been watching this student agitation, and yes, we are disturbed, we are not disturbed, but then we go back to our work and we carry on. But she said that when she read about the student agitation, automatically her consciousness spreads into them, and she felt their pain, she felt their hunger. And she said for 3 days she couldn't work, she only sat and cried. Because when we have a consciousness which is so vast, it's not me sympathizing with you. I actually feel your pain as my pain. I'm not separate from you. So yeah, that consciousness comes at a price, but it's better than being insular. So now this is Synthesis of Yoga, page 362, Sri Aurobindo. The self of man must be made one with the self of all. The self of the infinite individual must pour itself into the boundless finite, and that cosmic spirit too must be exceeded in the transcendent infinite. This cannot be done without an uncompromising abolition of the ego sense at its very basis and source. In the path of knowledge, one attempts this abolition negatively by a denial of the reality of the ego. So every time a movement of anger comes, I recognize the angry I in that movement and I say, no, this is not me. This is just a play of Prakriti, and you step out, you cut the root. The root of the anger is not the emotion of anger. The root of the anger is the I which when I make that angry I me, when I identify with it, that is the root. But to recognize, to see that I in the anger, capital I, and say, no, this is not me, and step out of it, that's cutting the root. So, in the path of knowledge, one attempts this abolition negatively by a denial of the reality of the ego, Positively, by a constant fixing of the thought upon the idea of the one. So there are, the negative way is to say, negative means not bad, it means no. Neti neti, this is not me, this is not me, this is not me. The positive way is to say, yes, this is God, that is also God, that is also God. Positively, by constant fixing of the thought upon the idea of the one and the infinite in itself, or the one and infinite everywhere. So in Sufism we have a chant, La ilaha illallah, no God but God. There is no God, there is no truth in this I, but everything is God. So, this, if persistently done, changes in the end the mental outlook on oneself and the whole world, and there is a kind of mental realization. So, you have to do this persistently, not for 1 hour here and then forget about it. Whole day when thoughts come, catch the I in the thought and just the remembrance, this I isn't me. This angry I isn't me, this fearful I isn't me. The real me is the light which is beyond the small I. The real me is the mind with the capital M, the witness. So, this, if persistently done, changes in the end the mental outlook on oneself and the whole world, and there is a kind of mental realization. But afterwards, by degrees, or perhaps rapidly and imperatively, and almost at the beginning, the mental realization deepens into spiritual experience. So we must always start where we are. We are living in the mind, so start it out as a mental exercise. The constant remembrance, this I is not me. Behind this I is the light that ever shines. Behind everything I'm seeing is the light that ever shines. And that finally, that's what actually Sri Aurobindo did when he was in jail. No, in the initial days, he tried to live the dictum of the Gita that everything is God. So in the horrible atmosphere of the Alipur jail, he would, when he was allowed to walk, he would pace up and down, reminding himself, this ground is also God, the cows are also God, not cows, the trees are also God, everything is God. And he kept doing that, and that ripened into that spiritual experience. Of course, he was Sri Aurobindo, but in a small or big way, he's opened the door for all of us to have it, where he actually experienced that everything was Vasudev. He says he saw everything eventually not as an imagination but as a living spiritual experience. That the blanket he wore was Krishna, the guard was Krishna, the jailer was Krishna, everything was Krishna. Then that mental exercise became a spiritual experience. Then he can't fear anything. Could he criticize his jailer or the British? When you're that conscious, criticism becomes redundant. You cannot be critical. So, more and more frequent conditions come of something indefinable and illimitable. A peace, a silence, a joy, a bliss beyond expression, a sense of absolute impersonal power, a pure existence, a pure consciousness, an all-pervading presence. The ego persists in itself or in its habitual movements, but the place of the one becomes more and more loosened, and others are broken, crushed, more and more rejected, becoming weak in their intensity, limp or mechanical in their action. In the end, there is a constant giving up of the whole consciousness into the being of Supreme. So this self-giving that mothers emphasize, what is it? It's not just a word. Every time I recognize that this is not me. Every time I give away the ego, I'm giving to the real self, isn't it? Self-giving is basically giving away the ego to the light that I am behind the ego. So this is a beautiful sentence in the end, as a constant giving up of the whole consciousness into the being of the Supreme. And this is a line by Shankaracharya. He who realizes after repeated contemplation, the key word is repeated contemplation, not hearing it here and then forgetting it when you go out. Repeated contemplation, that he is a mere witness. He alone is liberated. He is the enlightened one. This is proclaimed by Vedanta. Repeated contemplation that I am a mere witness. I am not the I in this anger or jealousy or whatever else. It is easy to yell insults and raise fists when we are angry, when somebody creates recoil in us. It is easy to yell insults and raise fists. Surely courage was more than just an instinct to exhibit one's physical strength. The physical strength could be fists or just loudly shouting. But courage is more than that. True courage was the capacity to stand up not only for the beautiful, but also for the ugly and rejected. What a beautiful line. True courage is the capacity to stand up not only for the beautiful, but also for the ugly and the rejected. Let's understand this. What is the ugly and the rejected? It's a being who appears ugly to me, offensive to me, creates typically in an ordinary mind a flight or fight response. I want to go away, I don't want to be near you, I want to fight you. But that's not standing up for the darkness. And standing up for the darkness doesn't mean, like they say, when good people do nothing, that's the greatest evil. Standing up for the darkness is not to let them be controlled by the negative forces and trample you down and do anything else. Standing up for the darkness is standing in your own light. That's the best way you stand up to darkness. When beyond flight or fight mode, you go into your own light and you stand in your light so solidly that the negativity just can't affect you. The point is, when we are seeing darkness and negativity, we forget our light. We get pulled down by the thought, what a horrible world, what is this, what is that, and we forget the light that actually is there behind everything in the world. But when we stand in our light, we are giving the darkness that is confronting us a chance to change. We don't change it by fighting it or flying away from it. But if we stand in our, and that's, we'll see in this debate between love and death, Savitri keeps dialoguing with death till finally death tells Savitri, if you are the Divine Mother, show me yourself that I too can worship you. I don't believe you're the Divine Mother. But if you are the Divine Mother, show me yourself that I too can worship you. And then the avatar, the divine, even in the Gita, Krishna shows his Virat Swarup. Then the death, actually when Arjun was in that Arjun Vishad Yog, he's crestfallen, he's giving in to the voice of death inside him. And then also Krishna shows him his Virat Swarup, and that's what makes Arjun change. Here also, Savitri sheds her human form and death sees the Divine Mother in all her glory. See, she didn't have to be like Durga, kill him, trample him. She just had to stand in her own light, show her own light, and death crumbled. So I think that's, in this day and age, The best way we can fight darkness is to stand in our own light, to remember our light, to call it down and to stand in it. And that way we stand up for the darkness. We don't leave it to its darkness to play havoc. Automatically, when we stand in our own light without any mind to fight the darkness, the very frequency of the light changes the darkness. So there's this beautiful passage. I'll just read it out. It's not in your PDF. Consider a mountain for a moment. It appears completely still, yet it's tremendously powerful. It doesn't struggle against storms. It allows them to pass. It doesn't chase sunsets. It simply receives light. What does a mountain do? Doesn't fight storms. It just stands its ground. The storms pass. It doesn't chase something beautiful. It doesn't chase sunsets. It simply receives light. Rivers flow around it. Seasons change upon it. Yet it remains centered in its own presence. This is the kind of stillness that moves worlds. When you learn to breathe into this mountain-like stillness, something extraordinary happens. Reality begins rearranging itself around you. So, when darkness comes and I am standing mountain-like in my light, reality rearranges itself around me instead of against you. Opportunities that could never have forced, opportunities that you could never have forced begin appearing naturally. People who can assist you seem to cross your path precisely at the right moment. Solutions to problems you could be wrestling with suddenly become obvious. This isn't magic, it is physics, quantum physics. When you're in a state of stillness and coherence, you are no longer broadcasting the chaos signals of desperation, control, and struggle. So I noticed this. I finished class this morning and I went down. And I was with a student who'd had a terrible week, really terrible things had happened and whatever. And as she was telling me about it and grumbling about it, her foot, she was going out for lunch and her foot fell into a puddle, and of course I couldn't tell her then because of course I can't. I'm compassionate enough not to. And I don't blame her for being in that negative state. But all I know is whatever happens, we don't help the situation by being in the negative state. Because immediately I thought that you're throwing out so much negativity into the universe. The universe is going to throw negativity back at you. And I saw it instantly. And I couldn't tell her anything because she wasn't obviously would hear what I'm saying. But unless she cut this cycle of feeling negative, such things would keep happening to her. And I know it's not easy when things go wrong, and poor thing, things had really gone wrong. It's very difficult not to be negative. I tried telling her, okay, the worst has happened, now good things will come. Her next sentence was, no, good things won't come. It's like one negative thing gets over and another negative thing starts. And as soon as she said that, she stepped into the puddle. It's like she created her reality. I saw it with my own eyes, but we all do that sometimes. So now this is a dialogue between Savitri and Death. But Savitri answered to Almighty Death, O dark-browed sophist of the universe, who veils reality with its own idea, hiding with brute objects nature's living face, masking eternity with thy dance of death. Thou hast woven the ignorant mind into a screen. This voice of death has made the mind into a screen and made of thoughts errors, purveyor and scribe. You have a scribe is somebody who, like if I'm dictating and you write down my dictation, you're my scribe. So death has made thought error, scribe. Error will keep dictating and thought will keep writing it down. So death has done that. And a false witness of mind servant sense. An aesthete is somebody who can really appreciate the beauty of something. Somebody who has a keen aesthetic sense. But what has death done? He has made an aesthete of the sorrow of the world. He has made my mind an aesthete of the sorrow of the world. My mind can keep appreciating the beauty in the sorrow. So Bollywood is full of such sorrowful songs, no? Those crying sounds. What are they, Anjan? You will know. I forget the lyrics. What? Some songs are really rotru, where they keep saying "Jaye to jaye kaha" and all that kind of stuff. So that is an aesthete of the sorrow of the world. And somehow I can't appreciate those songs anymore at all because they have a falsehood to them. So an aesthete of the sorrow of the world, champion of a harsh and sad philosophy. So death is a champion of a harsh and sad philosophy. Thou hast used words to shutter out the light and called in truth to vindicate a lie, to justify a lie. You have called in truth to justify a lie. A lying reality is falsehood's crown. So if you hear death speaking, it's like a lying reality. It sounds so real and true. I keep arguing with a friend of mine who loves the dialogues of death because for him they are very real. And I say I don't even read them. Mostly I skip them and I go to Savitri. But he's saying you're losing out. They are such precious gems. Because whatever we are vibrating to, we'll connect with that. So, a champion of a harsh and sad philosophy, thou hast used words to shutter out the light and called in truth to vindicate a lie. A lying reality is falsehood's crown, and a perverted truth her richest gem. O death, thou speakest truth, but truth that slays, truth that kills my hope and light. I answer thee with a truth that saves. So beautiful. You are speaking a truth, but a truth that kills my spirit. I am answering you with a truth that saves. Further, page 623 of Savitri. Savitri is still telling death. You will see I am partial. I have put very few lines of death, but more of Savitri. O death, thou lookest on an unfinished world, assailed by thee and of its road unsure, peopled by imperfect minds and ignorant lives, and sayest God is not and all is vain. So the voice of death which tells us nothing is going to happen. Our country is going to the dogs, the world is going to the dogs. That's the voice of death. And Savitri is saying you're looking on an unfinished world, attacked by thee, assailed by thee and of its road unsure, peopled by imperfect mind and ignorant lives, and sayest God is not. That is death, no negation. Anything that negates God and light is the voice of death. And sayest God is not and all is vain. How shall the child already be the man? Because he is infant, shall he never grow? So when we are looking at the world and saying there's no hope for the world, it's like looking at a child crawling and saying he's never going to walk. Look at him, he's got such weak muscles. So that's what he's saying. How shall the child already be the man? Because he is infant, shall he never grow? Because he is ignorant, shall he never learn? In a small, fragile seed, a great tree lurks. In a tiny gene, so death will look at the seed and say it's garbage, throw it away. But Savitri will see a whole huge oak tree in the seed and lovingly put it in the ground and nurture it. In a small, fragile seed, a great tree lurks. In a tiny gene, a thinking being is shut. A little element in a little sperm, it grows and is a conqueror and a sage. Then wilt thou spew out death, God's mystic truth? Deny the occult. Occult is hidden, spiritual miracle. The whole world is the occult spiritual miracle. Every being is an occult spiritual miracle. And every time I write off a human being, it's the voice of death writing out the God in the human being. Then wilt thou spew out death, God's mystic truth, deny the occult spiritual miracle. Still wilt thou say there is no spirit, no God. That's what death keeps saying. There is no spirit, no God. Man is a naked two-legged worm. He should just be a worm. That's how death is constantly arguing with Savitri. Further, page 634, Savitri, this is death speaking to Savitri. She is telling Savitri, thy words are large murmurs in a mystic dream. He's telling Savitri, you are dreaming. Whatever you're saying is not true. For how in the soiled heart of man could dwell the immaculate grandeur of thy dream-built God? He's saying God is something your dreams have built, and man's heart is so polluted and so soiled that how can it house this splendor that you're calling God? It's not possible. Or who can see a face and form divine in the naked two-legged worm thou callest man? O human face, put off mind-painted masks. The animal be, the worm that nature meant. So he's telling Savitri, who's the divine mother, the animal be, the worm that nature meant. Accept thy futile birth. Your birth is futile. I actually know a person who told me that man's life is degrees of pain, less pain or more pain, but that's his whole life, and then he dies. Accept that. So that is the voice of death. That's how so many people think. Even I was reading letters, there was one very close disciple of Sri Aurobindo, really close. And he wrote to Sri Aurobindo that, Gurudev, I know you keep saying mother's force will do everything, but to be very honest, my mind just can't believe it. My mind just can't believe that God will do what needs to be done. And if sometimes we are very honest, that voice is in our mind. When we are in a sticky difficulty, why are we anxious? Because we don't believe, or we question, will mother really do it? Will she really take me through? That's the voice of death inside us. So, accept thy futile birth, thy narrow life, for truth is bare like stone and hard like death, bare in barrenness and hard with the truth's hardness live. But Savitri replied to the dire God, yes, I am human. The mother did come down in a human form. Yet shall man by me, since in humanity waits his hour the God, trample thee down to reach the immortal heights. Now Sri Aurobindo says, I'm not a philosopher, I'm a seer. I write what I see. So if he's written this, there will be an hour in the history of man where he will trample down the illusions and ignorance of death in our head and reach God. through the mother, of course. So she's saying, yes, I'm human, yet shall man by me, since in humanity waits his hour, the God, trample thee down to reach the immortal heights, transcending grief and pain and fate and death. Yes, my humanity is a mask of God. He dwells in me, the mover of my acts, turning the great wheel of his cosmic work. I am the living body of his light. That we did this in great detail last Saturday, where Mother is the living body of God's light. So by just concentrating on the Mother, we are concentrating on the peace, the joy, the light of the beyond. I am the living body of his light. I am the thinking instrument of his power. I incarnate wisdom in an earthly breast. Through my force, wisdom is born in different human breasts. I am his conquering and unslayable will. Nothing you do can conquer or slay his will. Everything finally has to obey his will. I am his conquering and unslayable will. The formless spirit drew me in its shape. So I was once the formless spirit, the Adi Shakti, but I worked for 900 years to create a shape by which I can come down. The formless spirit drew me in its shape. In me are the nameless and the secret name. So beautiful. I'm going to read this without explanation, just feel it. But Savitri replied to the dire God, yes, I am human. Yet shall man by me, since in humanity waits his hour, the God, trample thee down to reach the immortal heights, transcending grief and pain and fate and death. Yes, my humanity is a mask of God. He dwells in me, the mover of my acts, turning the great wheel of his cosmic work. I am the living body of his light. I am the thinking instrument of his power. I incarnate wisdom in an earthly breast. I am his conquering and unslayable will. The formless spirit drew me in its shape. In me are the nameless and the secret name. Now death replied to her. This is on page 635. O priestess in imagination's house. So he's not calling Savitri a priestess in a temple. Your temple is imagination's house, because everything you're saying is your imagination. O priestess in imagination's house, persuade first nature's fixed and immutable laws, and make the impossible thy daily work. So man is stuck in the laws of karma, stuck in the cosmic web. You can't change it. And yet, this is his challenge to her. But in the, I think, the first or second canto of Savitri, before this dialogue, when Savitri wakes up, it's the time when, it's the morning when Satyavan's going to die. That's the first canto. And in that very canto, or maybe it was the second canto, first or second, there are these lines: across the awful march no eye can see. This march is the march of our thoughts, governed by the laws of karma. Like this lady, I was giving you an example. She was stuck in that cosmic web of negativity, and unless she called grace, which also sometimes you feel you don't have access to when you're so stuck in it, that web will keep pulling you in. So those lines say, across the awful march no eye can see it. Eyes can't see it. It's an invisible march of laws. Barring the dreadful route no will can change. She stood the Divine Mother, the special emanation of grace which has come down to earth. Sri Aurobindo says that when you pray to the embodied Divine Mother, it's an occasion of constant grace. As a Adi Shakti, of course, grace acts within the law of the cosmos. But when you pray to this embodied Divine Mother, she is giving you a chance to usher in constant grace into your life. So, across the awful march, no eye can see, barring the dreadful root, the root of this negativity, Mother standing barring it, barring the dreadful root, no will can change. She stood her ground. Again and again the recurring thing is stand in your light. The Mother always stands in her light, so negativity doesn't have a chance against her. She stood facing the engines of the universe, the engines of this law of cause and effect. A heart stood. The Mother is a mother of love. She always says, I haven't come to you as a guru. A guru will equip you and leave you to walk your path. I've come to you as a mother. I'll carry you. So don't reduce me to a guru. A guru is limited. A mother is much more. So she stood facing the engines of the universe. A heart stood in the way of its driving wheels, a heart of love. Its stark convention, its giant workings paused before a mind. So the workings of my mind paused before the mind of the Mother. Its stark conventions met the flame of a soul. Karma has very stark conventions. The laws of cause and effect has stark conventions, but they met the flame of a soul. Flame is passion. Mother comes with the passion of the gods. Its stark conventions met the flame of a soul. So right in the beginning of Savitri, Sri Aurobindo is telling us Mother comes with this power, and if you access this power, it can stay the wheels of any negativity. But death in the role he has to play, he's saying, O priestess in imagination's house, persuade first nature's fixed immutable laws. You can't, he's challenging her, you can't do that, but she has come with a mandate to do that and make the impossible thy daily work. How canst thou force to wed two eternal foes, two eternal enemies? Who are the two eternal enemies? Spirit and matter. Irreconcilable in their embrace. In the human being, they have to live in one house, spirit and matter, but they are as if always at war. They cancel the glory of their pure extremes. An unhappy wedlock, they are as if a bride and a bridegroom in a very unhappy marriage situation, matter and spirit. Maims their stunted force. How shall thy will, because matter is always pulling me outwards into a material life, and spirit is always pulling me inwards into a spiritual, like my material body, my thoughts and emotions want me to just have fun and chill, and my spirit wants me to do more. So it's like they are always at loggerheads. How shall thy will make the one true and false? Where matter is all, their spirit is a dream. When I'm entrenched in material life, spirit doesn't exist for me. If all other spirit, matter is a lie. When I go deep into my spirit, this whole, I don't like the world, I want to leave it. So the doctrine of nirvana, escape. And who was the liar that forged the universe? Death is telling Savitri, your God is a liar. He's the liar that forged this universe. Now Savitri replies, my heart is wiser than the reason's thought. Your argument is very reasonable. I can't refute it. But my heart is wiser than reason's thoughts. My heart is stronger than thy bonds, O death. It sees and feels the one heart beat in all. It feels the high transcendence sun-like hands. It sees the cosmic spirit at its work. You are only giving arguments visible to this physical eyes, but my eyes have a different vision. I am seeing God at work everywhere. In the dim night, it lies alone with God. My heart, even in the dim night, when everything seems dark, it lies alone with God. My heart's strength can carry the grief of the universe. My heart is so strong that it can carry the grief of the whole universe and never falter from its luminous track. Can you imagine the strength? We see a little grief and we weep and we cry, but the mother comes with her heart so powerful that it can feel the grief of the whole universe and even then carry on doing the work she has come to do. And that's what we did, when in her latter years she was working on her cells. She had taken the whole universe into her body. So any negativity anywhere in the universe would attack her and she would feel the pain. And yet, feeling all that pain, she would go on doing the work she had come to do. That's how mighty she was. So, my heart's strength can carry the grief of the universe and never falter from its luminous track. Its wide, tremendous orbit through God's peace. It can drink up the sea of all delight. So, she's not sort of swayed by grief or delight. It can feel universal sorrow and still continue to work, and it can drink up the sea of all delight and never lose the white spiritual touch, the calm that broods in the deep infinite. So I'll read this again without explanation. Just feel it. Savitri, actually you have to feel. You have to let the words speak to you, not anyone's explanation actually. My heart is wiser than the reason's thoughts. My heart is stronger than thy bonds, O death. It sees and feels the one heart beat in all. It feels the high transcendence sun-like hands. It sees the cosmic spirit at its work. In the dim night, it lies alone with God. My heart's strength can carry the grief of the universe and never falter from its luminous track, its wide, tremendous orbit through God's peace. It can drink up the sea of all delight and never lose the white spiritual touch, the calm that broods in the deep infinite. Now death replies, if God is there, he cares not for the world. All things he sees with his calm, indifferent gaze. He has doomed all hearts to sorrow and desire. We recognize this. This is the voice in us. God is there. He may be all powerful, but he doesn't care for me. He doesn't care for the world. All things he sees with calm, indifferent gaze. He has doomed all hearts to sorrow and desire. He has bound all life with his implacable laws. He answers not the ignorant voice of prayer. I'm praying, but God won't answer me. Often we pray like that, no? That's the voice of death in our prayers. Eternal while the ages toil beneath. Unmoved, untouched by aught that he has made, untouched by anything he has made. He sees as minute details mid the stars, the animal's agony, and the fate of man. He is not bothered by our pain. Immeasurably wise, he exceeds thy thought. He is too wise to be bothered by your little thought. His solitary joy needs not thy love. He is lost in his Satchidanand. He doesn't care about your love. This is the voice of death. But Savitri answered to the sophist God, once more wilt thou call light to blind truth's eyes? So beautiful. You're calling the light of your reason to blind truth's eyes. Make knowledge a catch of the snare of ignorance, and the world a dart to slay my living soul. She rejects all his argument. She's standing in her light. Further she says, what liberty has the soul which feels not free, unless stripped bare and cannot kiss the bonds the lover binds around his playmate's limbs? So Savitri is saying that my freedom is to be a slave of God. When I'm totally a slave of my God, that is my freedom. So what liberty has the soul which feels not free, unless stripped bare and cannot kiss the bonds the lover binds around his playmate's limbs, choosing his tyranny crushed in his embrace, to seize him better with her boundless heart, she accepts the limiting circle of his arms. See, he's writing in paradox. He's saying freedom isn't in bondage. Bondage to my God, I'm free. She's saying that I seize him better when I accept the limiting circle of his arms. When I'm held in the circle of his arms, then I seize him better. Bows full of bliss under his mastering hands, and laughs in his rich constraints. Most constraints, because now when I reach that complete surrender, I have no free will. My will is one with the will of the Supreme. And laughs in his rich constraints. Mother says somewhere the supreme secret is to make my will one with the Supreme's will. And laughs in his rich constraints, most bound, most free. This is my answer to thy lures, O death. I don't want your solitary, sterile freedom. I want a freedom where I'm completely a slave of my God. For now, death replies, this is page 664, a blind force, a random force, not truth, has made this ignorant world. And you know, when we see something bad happen, I hear so and so got this illness, and I start thinking, oh my God, if I get this illness, that's the voice of death. Because I think life is so random that if it happens to someone, it can happen to me. So I should recognize that's the voice of death. A blind, and that this is the voice of death. A blind force, not truth, has made this ignorant world. A blind force, not truth, orders the lives of men. By power, not light, the great gods rule the world. Terrible, no? We are all just slaves to God's power. Power is the arm of God, the seal of fate. Now he tells Savitri, or if the mighty mother is with thee, show me her face that I may worship her. Let deathless eyes look into the eyes of death, an imperishable force touching brute things, transform earth's death into mortal life. So now he's challenging her, show me who you are, or stop talking all this. The two opposed each other face to face, Death and Savitri. Now they are face to face. His being, like a huge fort of darkness, towered. Around it, her light grew an ocean's siege. So Sri Aurobindo paints with words. So death is like this huge tower of darkness, and Savitri is like an ocean of light attacking that fort of darkness. Around it, her light grew an ocean siege. A while the shade survived. The shade is death, defying heaven. Heaven is Savitri. Assailed in front, oppressing from above. A concrete mass of conscious power, he bore the tyranny of her divine desire. See, we said earlier, we stand up for the noble and the good and the beautiful, but what about standing up for darkness? Mother's not rejecting darkness. In standing in her light, she's standing up for the darkness also, because she's giving him a chance to transform. So, and that's her divine desire, to stand in her darkness and to stand in her light and swallow the darkness. So, death bore the tyranny of her divine desire. A pressure of intolerable force weighed on his unbowed head and stubborn breast. In fact, for Sri Aurobindo's celebration, the youth of Bombay put up a beautiful yoga ballet on this. I will put it on the uttered word. It's good to see it again after we've done this passage. So, the tyranny of a divine desire, a pressure of intolerable force weighed on his unbowed head and stubborn breast. Light, like a burning tongue, licked up his thoughts. It's like there's negativity and darkness and doom, and light is not fighting, it's just there and it's licking up his thoughts. Light was a luminous torture in his heart, a shining torture which won't allow him to be what he is. Light caused a splendid agony through his nerves which had channeled darkness and doom. When light courses through it, it feels like agony. His darkness muttered, perishing in her blaze. Her mastering word commanded every limb and left no room for his enormous will that seemed pushed out into some helpless space. Now, death is also a tremendous will, but it stands no chance against mother's will, and left no room for his tremendous will that seemed pushed out into some helpless space, and could no more re-enter but left him void. His will could not re-enter him, he could not claim it. He called to night. Night in the Vedas means ignorance, and night is like general of death, no? Ignorance, he uses ignorance. So he called to his general night, but she fell shuddering back. She couldn't approach the light. Night fell shuddering back. He called to hell. Hell is another minion of death. So he called to hell, come help me, rescue me from this light. But sullenly is an angry sulk, it retreated. He called to hell, but sullenly it retired. He turned to the inconscient for support. So this is the army of death: inconscient, ignorance, hell, from which he was born, because death was born from the inconscience, his vast sustaining self. It drew him back towards boundless vacancy, as if by himself to swallow up himself. He called to his strength, but it refused his call. Even his strength isn't coming. His body was eaten by light, his spirit devoured. At last he knew defeat inevitable, and left crumbling the shape that he had worn, abandoning hope to make man's soul his prey. That was his hope, to make man's soul his prey, to extinguish the light in us, and forced to be mortal, the immortal spirit. So this is not just poetry to be appreciated, this is to be lived. Every time we confront any negativity, instead of going into flight or fight mode, fight is anger, flight is fear, if we stand in our light, if we stand like a mountain in our light, how do we do that? Instead of getting carried away by our negative thoughts, call mother. Ask her to come into you as a light and stand in her light. That is, you're standing for her, for yourself, and you're even standing for the darkness. You're not rejecting it. Running away from the darkness isn't the answer. It'll find you. You can't run away from it. But when you, and you know, as I tell you, I always, whatever I'm living in the week, I try to speak about it. So I actually experienced this. I was with somebody very negative through the week once. And when we are a little sensitive, we notice that there's a typical sensation in our body. A particular negativity creates a fluttering in the belly or something. And if you feed that negativity grows. But I was thinking that how do I stand for this negativity and for myself by not feeding the unpleasant. I wanted to run away from the person. When a person grumbles a lot and is very negative, I want to be away from the person. But I said that's not helping. So I just stood my ground. I didn't feed that negative sensation and I just invoked Mother's light. And the person went on grumbling, went on saying whatever he had to. But I was so solidly with Mother's light that I wasn't affected, and after a while the person stopped. So I'm hoping it would help his negativity to also change. But whether it does or not, that's between the person and Mother. But the point is, we can stand in our light. We don't have to go into flight or fight mode. So I'm reading this passage again. It's very beautiful. The two opposed each other face to face. His being, like a huge fort of darkness, towered. Around it, her light grew an ocean siege. A while the shades survived, defying heaven, assailing in front, oppressing from above. A concrete mass of conscious power he bore, the tyranny of her divine desire. A pressure of intolerable force weighed on his unbowed and stubborn breast. Light like a burning tongue licked up his thoughts. Light was a luminous torture in his heart. Light caused a splendid agony through his nerves. His darkness muttered, perishing in her blaze. Her mastering word commanded every limb and left no room for his enormous will that seemed pushed out into some helpless space and could no more re-enter but left him void. He called to night, but she fell shuddering back. He called to hell, but sullenly it retired. He turned to the inconscient for support from which he was born, his vast sustaining self. It drew him back towards boundless vacancy, as if by himself to swallow up himself. He called to his strength, but it refused his call. His body was eaten by light, his spirit devoured. At last he knew defeat inevitable and left crumbling the shape that he had worn, abandoning hope to make man's soul his prey and forced to be mortal the immortal spirit. So let's make a collective aspiration to stand our ground in our light, in the Mother's light, no matter what the negativity that confronts us, whether it's a negativity outside or the negativity of our own thoughts, and to not identify with that negativity and stand in our light. With her grace, may we all be able to do that. Hands together in a namaste. 3 Oms. Om.